Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, I have two more great stories, folks. One, a sighting of a mysterious angelic bird, and another sighting of a gnome visitation in someone's room, folks. Let's get into the first article. Strange little man appears in teen's bedroom late at night, and hear exactly how this fairy-like entity interacted with the witness. Let's get into it now. When the witness was a teenager growing up in a quiet region with no known folklore traditions of small humanoid beings, an unexpected nighttime encounter unfolded inside their own bedroom. What appeared in the doorway was not a dream, not fear-inducing, and not easily explained. Decades later, the memory remains vivid, raising questions about who or what was silently observing them. Thanks to Kyle and Cam at Expanded Perspectives, we have this story, folks. So let's get into it. Years ago, when I was still a teenager, I had a very strange experience that I would like to share. One night, I woke up to find my bedroom door open, and even though I never went to bed without closing and locking it, the hallway light was on, which was also unusual. Standing in the doorway was a strange little man. He was shorter than the doorknob, about 3 feet tall, and had an odd shape with a large head and nose, messy hair, and bulging overall appearance. He did not resemble a person with dwarfism. His features were too exaggerated to be considered human. I never once thought of him that way. As my room was dark and the hallway light illuminated him from behind, he appeared as a silhouette. He would occasionally shift his position or scratch himself. I stared at him for several minutes, rubbing my eyes and pinching myself, wondering if I was having a vivid dream, but I was wide awake. In that moment, I realized this encounter could have been frightening, but I felt no fear whatsoever. Instead, I was extremely curious about him. My impression was that he was simply watching me as I watched him. It felt as if we were aware of each other's presence, yet neither of us spoke or attempted to interact. It was like observing a wild animal up close. I didn't want to do anything to frighten him away. After taking a long look, I decided the only thing to do was go back to sleep. I closed my eyes and fell asleep, knowing he was still there watching me, yet I felt no fear or discomfort. Since then, I have thought about him often and remained curious about who or what he was, especially since the region I grew up in doesn't have a strong tradition of fairy sightings, at least not as far as I am aware. He resembled a lumpish little man about 3 feet tall with a large head and nose and a pot belly. He was strangely proportioned and may have been wearing large cuffed boots. I've had several strange experiences, all unique and difficult for me to classify. When I heard about your podcast, this particular experience immediately came to mind, both during the encounter and now I think of him as a funny little man like a dwarf, but different from any I have read about in fiction. Sometimes very strange things happen. Now, this entity sounds very much like a dwarf or like a gnome or like a Christmas elf, folks. He seems far different from basically the classic depiction of elves like Tolkien basically described, folks, but sounds very reminiscent of other, Nordic tales of dwarf-like entities. I mean, this entity didn't sound like he had a beard. Then again, the witness didn't say he had one. Maybe he did. Or should I say, the witness didn't say that he didn't have one, at least. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like he would have, or she would have mentioned it. Either way, a strange entity, indeed, folks. What was this entity, and why did this person see it, especially in an area where, fairy signs or basically lore, doesn't really exist? Why was it there? Why was it visiting her? Maybe she was actually seeing some sort of extraterrestrial. We simply don't know, but we'll talk about that point after we read the next article, which is titled Giant Eagle at the Breaking Point, an Ohio encounter interpreted as divine intervention. Let's get into this article now and hear about yet another flying Thunderbird-like cryptid entity, folks. Let's get into it now. Encounters involving anomalous birds often emerge during periods of trauma or transition. This account stands apart because of its timing, emotional impact, and the enduring sense of reassurance it left behind. Let's read the actual story now. At the time of the encounter, the witness was under extraordinary strain. Her mother had recently undergone surgery that removed her vocal cords due to a tumor. She returned home dependent on a tracheotomy, a feeding tube, and constant care that included frequent medical maintenance. Simultaneously, the witness was working 1.5 jobs while caring for a young son who had just been diagnosed on the autism spectrum. Unknown to her at the time, she was also suffering from a blocked hepatic duct caused by a stone, a condition that would later contribute to her physical and emotional collapse. Sleep became impossible. Eating was sporadic. Long-standing unresolved trauma from childhood began surfacing under the pressure. The witness later described this period as heading toward an unavoidable breaking point at full speed. One evening, after spending most of the day crying, she pulled into a drive-thru and then stopped at a red light leading onto a 4-lane road that cut through the city. The sky was dark and gray. Her emotional state was shattered. She felt completely spent. Suddenly, a flock of birds resting on an overhead wires scared violently. The abrupt movement drew her attention upward. At that moment, she saw something massive flying toward a nearby utility pole. The birds had fled because of it. The creature landed on top of the pole. It was an enormous bird estimated to be about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, with an exceptionally wide wingspan. Its plumage was speckled brown and cream. Once perched, it leaned forward and stared directly down into the witness's car, making unmistakable eye contact. The witness looked around, expecting others to notice. No one reacted. Traffic continued. The bird remained focused solely on her. As she met its gaze, an overwhelming sense of peace washed over her. The emotional pain eased. A certainty settled in that, despite everything, she would survive what was coming. She knew, without rational explanation, that everything would be okay in the end. Later, she asked her employer about the bird, knowing his wife was an avid bird watcher. The only explanation anyone could offer was that it may have been a juvenile bald eagle. At that time, bald eagles were extremely rare in Ohio and typically only passed through during migration. It was also the wrong season entirely. Life did not immediately improve. The witness suffered a complete nervous breakdown and later lost her mother. Her nervous system felt as though boiling water were being poured over her skin. Yet in retrospect, the collapse became the turning point that saved her life. It forced her to seek help and finally confront the unresolved trauma that had shaped her reactions and self-destructive patterns since childhood. Looking back, the witness believes the eagle appeared as a message, a confirmation that she was not alone, that she was seen, that she would endure. She later connected the moment to the biblical passage, "I shall renew your strength like that of the eagle." For her, the encounter was not a coincidence, it was reassurance. Could it be possible that this was God reaching out to one of his children, folks? Perhaps he sent this bird that was in reality an angel to comfort this woman, folks? It could be, folks. I've often felt God's touch as well. And this could be just like that God's touch only manifested instead of just reassurance, folks, from just a feeling. Maybe it was a feeling accompanied with an event that truly helped this woman, well, not only endure, but change her life completely, turning around to a better place where she could basically truly live her life with her son, folks, in a better, well, world view that she now had. Could that be what happened here, folks? Or do you suppose maybe this was some sort of psychic manifestation, a tulpa effect here, that this woman needed help and she needed it so badly, she literally manifested this bird and it, well, in a way, sent her this message, perhaps. Could it basically be God, or maybe some sort of self-reassurance that manifested as this bird, folks? Or could it be both? For God's sakes, folks, I can imagine that basically God, working through a tulpa that you yourself created, could give you such a message directly and let you know everything could be all right. But we don't know for sure. It's something, folks. And much like with the first story we read about with the, well, gnome, or I guess hobbit-like entity visiting this teenager, folks, these things happen. Could it be that maybe the hobbit itself is some sort of, well, guardian angel sent by God to watch over this teenager and stuff like that for a reason we just can't comprehend? Maybe it took this form, because I've heard before that basically people who've gone to sleep have seen a variety of other forms. While terrifying, don't frighten the witness at all. This one account of these soldiers standing by this person's bed, or these other entities, they sound very reminiscent. I even know of an account of this girl waking up and seeing this wolf-like entity, like a werewolf, and this little girl, very like entity, through her bedroom window, and they gave her a message that was truly enlightening. Either way, very, very cool story, folks, but right then, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in descriptions or the chat to go subscribe me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.